I screamed out loud. Like, he just frowns. He frowns like 3 times a page. We're not sure if she's falling for the prince or if she's falling for the assassin who's there to kill her. She doesn't owe him shit, okay? I'm just very proud of her. Hello, my name is Aubrey. I'm so glad you're here because today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. So it has been a long time since I've done a monthly wrap-up. I made the decision a while ago to stop doing them because at the time my reading was so inconsistent that I just really struggled to do wrap-ups. Some months I read a lot and some months I hardly read at all, and it had just started to feel really stressful. So I stopped doing them. I just decided to go to a more recent reads style wrap up, but I have read so many books this month that I just feel that I need to do an April wrap up. We'll see if my voracious reading continues throughout the year. I may come back to a more monthly wrap up type thing, but I'm not committing to it just yet. But for April, I need to do a wrap up. So yeah, I read 12 books. 12 books and 4 novellas. So that's like 16 things. I just have been reading like crazy. I listen to audiobooks all day long. I have been waking up early to read physically. I've been reading a lot more on the weekend. Like, I don't know. I'm just very hyper focused on reading right now. So yeah, I read a lot. Let's talk about what I read. So in my last wrap-up video, I mentioned that I was about halfway through A Gathering of Shadows. This is book 2 to the Darker Shade of Magic series. I was definitely not super loving this book in the first half. I found the first half to be quite slow, a little boring. I felt like Kel, who I had liked a reasonable amount in the first book, I felt like he was just so mopey and kind of annoying at the beginning of this. Like, he just frowns. He frowns like 3 times a page, and he's just so grumpy and moody, and I got really sick of it really fast. Rai, his brother, is also kind of the same way at the beginning of this. I more understand his point of view and his mopiness and his like acting out, but Kel just seemed to only have like one setting, and it was to be frowning, and I don't know, I wasn't super enjoying it. I did like the addition of Alucard, who is this pirate captain. I found him very enjoyable, and I liked his addition to the series and his dynamic with Delilah I was really enjoying. So now that I've finished the book, I really loved the second half. Like, I loved the second half so much, and it was so good that it bumped the book up to being a solid 4 stars. Before that, it was like teetering on like a 3 to lower, just because it was so slow and nothing was happening and everyone was kind of getting on my nerves. But yeah, the ending of this book was so, it grabbed me and it did not let me go, and I was just completely obsessed. There's this tournament in this one where all of these magicians from all of these different places in Red London, well, places in the world that has Red London, come together to duel it out. And Kel and another one of our main characters, I guess 2 of our other main characters, I won't say who because I think it's a bit of a spoiler, are competing in this tournament, and it just, I don't know, once things really got going, I found myself very invested, so I enjoyed this immensely. Here's the thing that you should perhaps know about me. If you can get me invested in a ship, like a relationship, in a book series, I will follow you until the ends of the earth, okay? I will read all of your books. I will be obsessed with them. And by the end of this book, I was invested in 2 ships, okay? 2 ships. One ship I absolutely did not see coming. I didn't see coming, and when it happened, I screamed out loud. I was like stomping my foot on the ground because I could not. Because I could not. So yeah, I'm not hard to please. It's really not hard to get me obsessed with a book series. I just need something to like really latch onto. But I have to feel that like, oh my god, I'm going to die if I don't know what happens to these characters. And I finally got that with the second one. So, and then the third book, I just ate up. I thought this was so good. I was so invested by this point. This was such an absolute knockout of a finale. I don't know, I just thought everything came together in such a satisfying way. I loved seeing all of our characters together and interacting and working together to try to take down this dark force that has taken over Red London. I am so obsessed with Holland. He's just the saddest boy. He's so sad, and I've always really liked him. He was by far my favorite character in book 1. We didn't see too much of him in book 2, but here in book 3 he takes a much more prominent role, and I loved just like seeing more of him, and his dynamic with Kel and Delilah was so much fun, and his ending, oh my god. His ending is so bittersweet and heartbreaking. I thought it was really perfect. I just really loved this. And just so you all know how much I loved it, I was on a long car ride with my parents going to visit my grandparents, and we were in the car for like 10 hours. And I am not the kind of person who can do anything if there's music on with lyrics. I literally, my brain like cannot do anything else other than listen to the music. My dad has to listen to music in order to stay awake while he drives, and I was trying so hard to read this book in the back seat because I just had to know what was going to happen. I couldn't put it down for even a second, and I was just like trying so hard to tune out the music. So yeah, I loved this, and this book right here is the reason why I have such a hard time DNFing series. Even if the first book in a series is only a 3-star or it's just kind of okay, I always just feel compelled to keep reading because it could turn into a favorite. This last book was a whopping 5 stars for me, and it has elevated the whole trilogy to being a favorite, and I'm glad for that. Especially because this book is signed personally to me. I met V.E. Schwab at BookCon in like 2015. What year did this book come out? Oh, 2017. Okay. And I went to BookCon, had a great time, and met her, and she personalized this book to me. And I was so upset when I read A Darker Shade of Magic and thought it was just okay, because I was like, what if I have to get rid of this book? What do you do with like a personalized signed copy of a book? I have no idea, but I thankfully will be holding on to this as I ended up loving it. So that's great. And then I ended up finishing the Shatter Me series. This is the second half. First, I read Restore Me. This is book 4. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I actually really enjoyed this one. I liked where the series was going, or where it felt like it was going. Got introduced to a bunch of new characters that I really enjoyed. I was enjoying just like, I don't know, the drama. I loved seeing more of Kenji, my favorite character in the series. I don't know, I felt like this was a really strong start to the next trilogy, and it gave me a lot of false hope that it might end up being something that I liked. I then read Shadow Me, which was book 4.5. It's a novella in between book 4 and book 5. And this was from Kenji's point of view. I loved this. Again, seeing as Kenji is my favorite character, I loved having his point of view for a little while. I gave this one 5 stars. And then I read Defy Me. This is book 5 in the series. I did not super enjoy this one. I gave this 3 stars. I don't think it's irredeemable. Like, there were moments that I enjoyed. This is the first full-length novel where we get Kenji's point of view, which I did really enjoy. But other than that, I just didn't care for this, and mostly I didn't care for where this series went. There's a kind of a big retcon that Tahereh Mafi gives us that I just don't like, and I just don't think it really adds anything to the series other than the fact that our main character Juliet and our second main character Warner's backstories end up being even sadder than we thought they were, which I just don't think the series really needed. Their backstories are already pretty tragic and traumatic, and I just, like, I don't think this really adds up to anything new. I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to spoil anything. I did end up filming a spoilery chat like I did for the ACOTAR series, so if you're interested in that, I just need to edit it and then I will have it posted probably sometime after this video, just if you want to know my spoilery thoughts if you read the series. But yeah, I did not enjoy this. Then I read Reveal Me, which was book 5.5. Again, this was from Kenji's point of view. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one, but I do love Kenji, and any time we get to spend with him is a fun time for me. And then Imagine Me, which is the finale. I did not like this. I gave this 2 stars. I just really dislike where the series went. I don't like what happened to the characters. Juliet has this weird super soldier plotline that I did not enjoy. We also don't get Warner's point of view in this one. We only get Kenji's point of view and Juliet's point of view, which I just thought was a very weird choice. I just think we really could have used Warner's point of view. He really starts acting out and reverting to his old self in this one, and I just think it would have been nice to have some chapters from his perspective so we could see his like inner thoughts and see what he was going through. Overall, I just think that this whole second trilogy was very disappointing. It felt really rushed. I don't know if Tahereh Mafi just had like really weird deadlines or what, but it all felt so rushed. Yeah, I found this all pretty disappointing. Like I said, I do have a spoilery chat coming. I may do a spoiler-free review for this series as well. Oh yeah, I also read Believe Me, which was the final novella. This was definitely cute, but it didn't like wrap up nearly enough of what I wanted it to. If I can kind of remove this like from the last few books, I can enjoy it well enough, and I did, but when I think about it with the other books, it just kind of makes me upset because I wanted so much more from the series. I wanted to see certain character interactions. But yeah, as much as I love the first trilogy, this was very disappointing. I felt like it was a slap in the face to Juliet's character development. I don't know. I had a lot of problems. So then I picked up The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. I read this whole trilogy. I ended up really enjoying this. So this is a YA fantasy. We're following our main character, Leah, Princess Arabella. She goes by Leah. She's getting married, but she does not want to get married. She's getting married to a prince from another kingdom. She assumes this prince is like some old crusty guy that she is not interested in being tied down to. She doesn't want to go live in some foreign kingdom. She just wants to marry for love, okay? Which, to be fair, is a very, very tired trope that I was a little hesitant about going into the story. I was like, oh no, is this gonna be one of those? But I feel like Leah as a main character really works because she's willing to run away. So she runs away on her wedding day to just like become a tavern maid. Instantly, to me, I felt like she works a little bit better in this trope because she's willing to give something up in order to get what she wants. Whereas I think a lot of times when this trope is used, the main character wants her cake and to eat it too, right? She wants to still be a princess and still remain in all of her wealth and power, but also to have no responsibilities to the kingdom, right? Whereas with Leah, she runs away, she gives away her status and her money and her power to just be a normal person because that's what's important to her, and she just wants to know that when she gets married that it's because that person loves her and not just because of who she is or what she can offer one kingdom or another, right? Okay, so anyway, she runs away, she becomes a tavern maid. Wouldn't you know that on one night, two men show up to the tavern. One of the men is the prince that she ran away from, who is in fact not crusty and old, but handsome and young. And the second is an assassin from a third kingdom who doesn't want the marriage to ever come to fruition. And so he's there to assassinate Leah and just take her out of the equation. And we, the reader, know that one is the prince and one is the assassin, but we don't know which one is the prince and which one is the assassin because she meets them both at the same time. And the way that it's written, you just don't know. You don't know. And so part of the fun is trying to figure out who's who as Leah starts to, fall for one of these boys. We're not sure if she's falling for the prince or if she's falling for the assassin who's there to kill her. And it's fun. It was a good time. I really enjoyed it. It was a little slow in parts, but overall, just like enjoyable. I gave this 3.75 stars. I carried on to the second book, which is The Heart of Betrayal. This one started to really impress me. Leah finds herself in a very precarious situation. So while the pacing of this book is perhaps as slow as the first one, it's filled with a lot more tension because she's in this imminent danger and you never know when something really, really bad might happen. And so it just felt a lot more gripping. We also get to see a new part of the world and a new kingdom, and we get to see a different side to some of the characters that we had in book one. I'm being very vague because it's the second book in a series, but it was very good and it was really impressive. The world building in this series feels very sturdy. It feels really well researched, and I was just very impressed with the amount of like history and lore and religion there was in the series. I thought this one was really good. It brought a lot of just very interesting things to the table. I ended up giving this one 4 stars, and then this last book, The Beauty of Darkness, was a 5-star book for me. I thought this was so good, the way everything came together. So many of the female characters throughout the series just like come together in this like super epic way, and I love how different they all are from each other. I love how they all bring very different things to the table, but they're all beautifully useful things, and they each have like their own talents. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed getting to see the full character arcs for our characters. The journey that Leah goes through from book 1 to book 3 is so enjoyable. I'm just very proud of her. And overall, I found her to be just a really likable main character. So yeah, I have filmed a spoiler-free review for this series, so if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, you can watch that, which will hopefully be out soon. But yeah, overall, I think the series was very, very good and a really underrated gem. So then I picked up Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This was delightful. This is a wonderfully whimsical, quirky, fairy tale-esque story about a young girl named Tress who is a window washer on a small island on a distant planet. And on this planet, there are 7 moons, and each moon has a different kind of plant growing on it, and the plants have spores. This is a Brandon Sanderson novel. Did I mention by Brandon Sanderson? So the spores kind of fall from the moons and create these vast seas of different kinds. And the spores, when wet, can become very deadly, and they all do like different things, okay? So Tress lives on this cute little rock island place in the middle of the Emerald Sea. So the sea is literally, it's just spores that are green. So yes, Tress is a window washer on this island, and she washes windows for the Duke, and the Duke has a son about her age, and they are very much in love. It's very cute. One day, the Duke decides to take his son on a voyage to find a suitable bride for him. So he leaves the island. Tress is devastated, but when the ship comes back to the island, the Duke's son is not on the ship. He has been captured by the sorceress, and nobody is doing anything about it. And so Tress decides that she will, in fact, have to be the one to go and rescue him. And so starts her journey off on the Emerald Sea. She ends up getting tangled up with some pirates. It's a good time. There's some lovely found family elements in this book. This book also uses a literary device that I absolutely love, which is when the narrator is in fact also a character. And they're kind of breaking the fourth wall to you as they're telling the story. So think like The Princess Bride, or A Series of Unfortunate Events, or A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? Like that kind of thing where the narrator is like talking to you. I love that. That's one of my favorite things ever, and it's hard to pull off, and I think Brandon Sanderson does it well here. I really loved it. I will say this was a 4-star read up until the very, very end, and there's I don't want to call it a twist, but there's a reveal, and the reveal bumped this up to a 5-star. It was just such a good, oh my gosh, it was just such a good little twist, because the whole book I had concerns about. I can't even talk about it because it's spoilery, but the whole book I kind of had concerns about where the story was going, and it just ended up being so good. That's all I'm gonna say. It ended up being very good. I really enjoyed it. I am not super well versed in the Cosmere books. I mean, the only Cosmere book that I have read thus far is the very first Mistborn book, so I know that there were a lot of like references to the Cosmere that I probably did not pick up on, but even still I found this book very, very enjoyable. So if you are like me and you haven't read that much Brandon Sanderson, I think that this would still be a very good place to start if it interests you. If you like whimsical tales, fairy tale-esque stories, I think you would really enjoy this. Alright, so then I finished Clockwork Prince, book 2 in the Infernal Devices trilogy. I loved this so much. Funnily enough, I had bumped down my original rating of Clockwork Angel to 3 stars. I had originally given it 4. After rereading it, I gave it 3. I thought it was just kind of okay. not as good as I remember, but I bumped up my rating of this one, which I had originally given 4 stars, to 5 stars. I loved this so much. I don't know. First of all, this is like such a step up from book 1. Just all across the board in terms of the writing, in terms of the storytelling. The characters feel so much more lovable and vibrant in this. I really loved seeing Tessa's budding relationship with Jem in this one. I just forgotten so much that happens in this series, so it has been very, very fun to revisit it and fall in love with it all over again. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. The drama, the angst, the pain, oh my god, it just gets me, okay? All right, I'm going a little bit out of order here so that we can end on a high note. But then I have Court of Frost and Starlight. This is the novella in between book 3 and 4 in the ACOTAR series. I had put in a hold on my library to listen to the audiobook for this, and it finally came in, so I just thought that I'd better go ahead and read it while I could, because the wait for these books tends to be kind of long. So yeah, I did not enjoy this. I went into it thinking that I might, because I think I've come to realize that I enjoy when these characters are just kind of hanging out together, and I knew that this was kind of a Christmassy, pointless novella, and I was kind of looking forward to it. I thought that it might at the very least just be kind of cozy, and we would be just sitting around chatting with the characters, and that is kind of what this is, but I just did not end up enjoying it. Mostly, okay, 2 things. I feel like 2 very big things. First of all, Rhysand, who up until this point, like, I don't know, okay, I get that he is very attracted to his wife. And there's like the whole mating thing, but I feel like in this one, he is just very suddenly like a gross horn dog. In his very first chapter, he talks about fucking Feyre in the sky because he can't stand to not be buried inside of her. I don't know. It just like, I found him very, very off-putting in this, and I just feel like for a character who was a sexual assault victim for years, I just think I found a lot of his attitude and language to be very aggressive and gross. Sorry. Second of all, Feyre, who has never been a favorite character of mine, I feel like is just so unbearably unlikable in this, specifically towards both of her sisters. So Nesta is a pill. I get that. She's acting out. But, you know, their father died in front of her. She almost watched the person she loves die. She became a fae against her will. Like, she's dealing with some shit, okay? And not everybody is going to deal with their trauma beautifully or perfectly, and I just felt like the way that everyone was talking to her, to Nesta, and treating her was just so shitty, especially Feyre. Just the lack of empathy was so baffling to me. But also Elaine, who is mated to Lucien, but she doesn't really want anything to do with him. Lucien shows up. Elaine is being kind of standoffish, and Feyre like gets onto her about it. She's like, you won't even give him a chance. You should at least talk to him and like try to get to know him. But like, girl, Elaine does not owe him anything. Like, Elaine does not owe him anything. It's not her fault that she's mated to him. That was not her choice. She doesn't owe him shit, okay? And like, I love Lucien, okay? Lucien is my favorite character. I just want him to be happy above anything else. But like, coming from her sister, I did not like that. So yeah, I mean, ultimately it is quite a pointless novella. There is a smutty scene at the end of this that I did not enjoy. Yeah, this was a 1 star for me. Okay, and then, kind of on a whim, I decided to pick up Jade City once again. I had gotten through about half of this book sometime last year, I think, and I had set it down just because I was struggling a little bit to get through it. It is quite slow for a series about gang violence and jade magic. I don't know, you would think that a sort of mafia-esque story would be a little bit more exciting. As it is, Jade City is political, actually. There's a lot of characters, there's a lot of world building. There are a lot of like political threads throughout the city of Janloon that need to be taken into account when looking at the whole picture of this world and everything that's going on within it. So if you haven't heard of Jade City, I'm sure that you have, but just in case you haven't, we're following these sort of two rival gangs. We have No Peak, which is the clan that all of our main characters are from, and then there's the Mountain, which is a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit smarter. They are sort of quickly becoming a bit too powerful in the scheme of things. We are following the Call family, which is one of the oldest and most powerful families in the city. They contain some of the best green bones, which is what you would call someone who can use the power of jade to kind of enhance your abilities, but also you can do some kind of special magic-y stuff with them. But not everyone can use jade. If you can use jade, you're called a green bone. In order to become a green bone, you have to go through years and years of very extensive training. Wearing jade for the average person can be quite dangerous. So yeah, I did enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars. My biggest complaint about it is the slow pacing and the somewhat removed writing style. It's a very almost militant writing style. It suits the series well, but I did feel very removed from the characters and the action. I felt like I was viewing everything from above, which isn't always my favorite way to feel when I'm reading a book. I kind of like to feel very grounded with the characters, but this just isn't that kind of story. We are following so many characters. There is so much going on. And so, yeah, I do think kind of seeing it all from above is probably the best way to go about it. I think that the world building and the magic system and just the scope of everything is quite impressive. Fonda Lee clearly has just everything in her world figured out, and she has an almost like Stephen King-esque level of detail. Every single character in the story has a backstory, and you get the sense that every single character you come into contact with is like a real person, and we just happen to be following these specific characters that we're following. But, you know, everyone else is real and they have their own histories and family lineages and lives going on. So it really does give you this very grounded sense of the world. Like, it feels very real. K-Con feels very real. The city of Janloon feels very real. And the conflict all feels very real. So yeah, like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Chapter 31, my jaw was on the floor. My jaw was on the floor. I could not believe she did that. I could not believe she did that. I have so much respect for Fonda Lee after that chapter. Not many authors are willing or able to pull that kind of thing off, and she did, and it shook me to my core. And then I very quickly picked up the second book, Jade War, which was, in my opinion, a little bit slower than even the first book was. We are time jumping a lot in this book, and I have a feeling we're probably going to be time jumping a lot in the next book too. I don't super love that because I do really enjoy these characters, and I like when we get to just really sit and spend time with them. And in this one, I felt a little bit more removed from them because we were jumping time so much and we couldn't sort of sit in any one piece of the story for too long because then we had to get on to something else. But I did still really enjoy it. The world building continues to be very impressive. I liked getting to see more of some other places besides Janloon. So one of our characters ends up spending some time overseas and we follow them there, and I thought all of that was very interesting, and I might have enjoyed that part of the story the most, actually. There are lots of very epic moments in here and parts of the book where I was like holding my breath and, you know, just on the edge of my seat. But there are also long stretches where very little happens and we're just getting a lot of politics and conversations with politicians or other important figures in the community. So yeah, it is a slow, meticulous series, but it is very, very good. I'm still enjoying it and I do recommend it. I'm really looking forward to the third book because I have a feeling it's going to be utterly devastating in like the best way. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Alright, so that is it for my April wrap-up. Thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know what your favorite read from April was. I would love to know. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye!